Welcome to Listening, a podcast hosted by Mira Ruea.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Listening. I am Mira, your host of today's episode, and I am so deeply honored that you're here and sharing this moment together, that you're taking this moment from you to go inwards, to listen inside, and to open your mind to new possibilities, to open your imagination, to remember and to enjoy. So today we have another interesting topic, and one that really helps you to stay in your center, or at least it will motivate you to do the work necessary to be able to stay in your center. Because really, the gifts and the presents that come with that are so priceless that it absolutely, all of this is worth it. Always, every single step on this entire path, it really, no matter if it's uncomfortable for a moment, it is so worth it. It will all pay off. Just never give up, trust in the process, and continue. But before we start, a quick reminder that this podcast is part of AዓይBû International University of Imagination. And on our website, www.AaiBû.me, you can find many more episodes of the podcast. And also you can find books for different topics. You can find different kinds of lessons and practices for your daily life. We have, to explain a little bit, we have 12 doors, because what is AaiBû? AaiBû is the first alive university, because really I believe that we have enough knowledge out there. Really, knowledge is everywhere. You can find knowledge everywhere. But to actually gain wisdom, you have to go through your experience. You have to embody it and not just have it in the thinking mind. And the thinking mind really is ego. So the really, really valid thing that really is in your existence and in your essence then is wisdom. So I have built the first alive university for you to gain wisdom and not just knowledge. And on the website, I have 12 doors to alive classrooms. You can choose which classroom you want to enter and combine them in the ways you want. All of them are going into a different aspect of you to find alignment there through your alive experience. And with that, you get access to opening that door, to going deeper, to walking through it and see what is on the other side. You really find mastery in that classroom. Mastery not of a subject, mastery not of a theory, but mastery of yourself. So that is AaiBû. That is the 12 doors to wisdom. And they are really different subjects. So depending on what you're feeling in this moment, you can go in the classroom and find your experience in it and see, just follow your intuition. And from there, everything will unfold. The other option is to work more individual. That is in the 9-month program, The Bridge, where we have live sessions, one-on-one sessions, and you also get personalized practices for you to do at home. It's a deep transformative journey that is deeply individual and deeply personal. So it really is intense, but you're at the same time guided and told it the whole path. But you have to walk on your own feet. And in 9 months, really everything can shift in the positive way. And the other option is to start with one call, and then we see from there. And you just book one call and everything will unfold. There is more offers and options you can find on the website, but that's enough for now. Find all of this on www.AIBû.me and walk through your life experience to master not a subject, but to master yourself. That's enough for now. And let's start with today's episode. So, really, everything is in constant motion. Everything is constantly moving. Everything. So, therefore, to seek for stillness can lead to misunderstanding and confusion because it is impossible to find stillness in the way that most people will understand stillness. Stillness like that does not exist. Everything is in motion. So, if you really actually want to have no motion and call that stillness, then you push against motion and you try to force motion into stillness, which is the opposite of its natural state of being. And that really is pushing the natural state of nature into its opposite. And that is not working, first of all, and secondly, it is not healthy. So stillness is not the thing that is there needed to be mastered. That is not true. You don't want to stop motion. You want to master motion. And that is way different. If you try to stop motion, and now let's actually, before we go into mastering it, let's actually go a little bit deeper. What happens if you stop motion and find that way of stillness? It actually is stagnation. Stagnation, if you try to force something to not move, like in a river. Let's say you have a small stream and you want to stop it from moving. So you build a small wall, you build a few stones. You put them inside the stream and you say, okay, now you stop the motion because on the other side you don't see the water. But it did not stop. The water continues to come and it continues to build because its natural state of being is motion, is flowing. And if you try to stop it and have those stones, that little wall, then there is so much pressure that is created in that point that at one point it will overflow or it will break, depending on how solid your wall is. But if there is enough water coming in its natural state of being, which is the flow, then your wall will break down or will be overflown. So really that wall is having to hold so much pressure of the water, so much weight, and it is trying to stop something from its natural state of being, which is simply impossible. It is impossible. The water will flow. The stream will continue. And if you stop it long enough, even above, there will be a bigger mass of water wanting to go its natural way of flowing down, continuing its path. So there is an impossibility to stop the motion. It is impossible. You cannot do it. And if you try to, you build up pressure, you build up a lot of tension, and then it will overflow at one point or it will break down your wall, whatever. And that is not just in a river. That is when you try to do that with you, with your life, inside, with your emotions, with whatever. Whenever you try to bring something to stillness, to stop the motion of it, you build up pressure, you build up tension. And for a while, it might work. But at one point, it is running you over. And it is breaking it down. It is breaking you down. And it will overflow and overgrow you. And it will come back to its natural state of being. but not in a gentle way, really, because you try to push against and you push so much against it and build so much tension until it is too much to hold and it flows down. It's the same example with when you have a glass of water and it continues to drop inside, and for a while it's okay, but at one point it will be too full and it will overflow. And then the glass is useless, right? It's too full. So really, to want to have no motion is bringing stagnation. And stagnation is not the natural state of being. And with that stagnation, with that tension building up, from that comes illness, from that comes chaos, from that comes a block that is blocking something. And that can literally lead to illness of your body because there is too much tension building up in your nervous system, in your body. You try to suppress too much. And it can also be blocks in the mind. It can be too much in the mind, too many thoughts. So all of those things you really don't want to have. So what does it look like if you try to stop the motion in your daily life? It really depends. But it can be suppression of emotions, of thoughts, of your evolution, of things that you know deep down that you need to do for your evolution, because it is time to evolve. It is time to move on. It is time to let go of something of the past. All of these things. It's time to swallow an ego. It's time for movement. And if you try to be the same person, if you try to stop that movement from happening, then really you build up that tension. If you try to stay the same person, if you try to stay in your same mind, whatever, you always build up that tension because everything should constantly move and is constantly moving. And if you work against it, you get your result out of it. So really, that is stagnation. That is trying to work against the law of nature. So now that we have that, how does it look like if you master motion, if you not work against it anymore? So let's take the example of your inner world now. If you are inside, if you're in your center, really centered, you know who you are and you are in your essence. And when then there is a storm coming on the outside, it will not move you from your center anymore. You will just stay who you are in your essence, and the storm will flow by. But you don't let yourself be moved from the essence. And yet it is not trying to stop the storm. It is not trying to stop the movement of it. It is understanding it and letting it pass. Not holding on to it, not working against it, not forcing it. It is observing, it is being present and letting it pass. That is the mastery of it. So what does that look like in your life? That can be very different. That storm can literally be a storm, but it can also be a storm in a person, a storm of someone that comes with hyper something or aggression, or that is bringing you, well, if you're not centered, let's go there first. When you don't yet have that state of mastery, when someone comes and you just chill on the couch, you have your drink, you do whatever you want, you had a long day and now you chill and you finally relax and you want a moment just for you to you and you just want to chill. And then someone comes very hyper and angry, screaming at you that you need to move and you need to do something because of this and that, and they blame you. Then most probably, if you're not in your center, you will get triggered by that. You will react on it. You will get angry. You will go into that conversation, into that energy. You will put the the pushing against it, and it will explode. But if you would master that, it means not to let someone else overrun you. That is not it. But it means to stay in your center, to not get reactive of it, but to stay in your center, who you are, and you don't need to react to it in that way. Of course, you need do what is needed, but not from emotional explosion, from being triggered and reacting. No, it is from being you in your center, being there, seeing the hurricane, not fearing it, not trying to push it away, but just by being present, being in your center, being in that peace. That is one way. And probably someone told you about this already. That is basic knowledge, basic yet deep to master it. But now let's go deeper, because that is one part of the mastery. But the other part is, and that is even the more difficult, and yet they go in a way hand in hand. But now let's imagine that when a storm comes inside of yourself, and you stay in that stillness, not from not moving, but from mastering the motion by observing it and letting it flow through you. The emotions, the thoughts can come like hurricanes, very intense, very loud, very aggressive even sometimes, very amplified. And now imagine that you just let them pass. You don't identify with them. You don't suppress them. You don't even need to take them out, but not in a way to suppress them. On the opposite. No, you just let them flow. And if there is a need to direct them in a certain direction, you do it, but without losing that center. And you still stay in that center. So it comes, you don't even identify, you just observe, you are present with it, with that emotion, with that thought, and you let it pass. You stay in peace. You stay yourself. And the next one comes, you're present with it, and you let it pass. That is the mastery of motion. That is not working against it. That is not suppressing it. That is not trying to force it to stillness. That is mastery. That is stillness in motion and motion in stillness, if you want to use those two words. That is real stillness, but that kind of stillness that does not exclude motion. That is not the opposite of motion, but that is flowing with motion. That is motion that is passing, and yet it is not ripping you from your center, from your essence, from your peace. So that is real mastery, because no matter what happens inside or outside, you stay at peace always. You stay present always. You stay in the moment always. You don't hold on to the past. You don't live in the future. You don't think about the next thing. You're just present in the here and now. Present with whatever is and rises in the moment. Present with it and letting it pass. You don't force anything to come. You don't push anything to go. You're present with what is. That is peace. That is real peace. To be present with what is. And from that, you can build anything and everything. And from that, you can create consciously. And from that, you can direct and focus the energy, the vibration, the frequency. But that kind of peace is the base of it. That kind of peace is the base of everything. That means being in your essence. That means being in the here and now. Because no matter what happens, you stay yourself. You don't identify with anything else. You don't identify even with you. You're just present, at peace, in love, with your heart open. What we talked about in the episode of yesterday. Rising in love was it called. So that really is the mastery. Not just this alone, but it's part of it. That is peace. That is then really being so solid in who you are that you don't need to prove it and force it. It's like if you go to the ocean and there is big waves on that day. There is a storm, maybe even. And you go inside, and if you try to be very still and don't let the water move you, you will fight against the waves, and that will bring exhaustion. You fight against the natural law of what is happening around you. That is like you need to prove yourself something. You need to prove the ocean something. You're identifying with you, the one that is against the ocean. You're getting an enemy even. Imagine you're creating an enemy. You're creating something to react. You're creating something to make a separation, therefore an identification with the opposite, and then you go almost into a fight. But now imagine the opposite of that. What would look the mastery like of that? If you just go in the ocean, there is the waves, and you don't try to force against the waves, you flow with the waves. But not in taking you away, but by being present, by not forcing yourself against the waves, but by knowing when you let go and when you are there. It is the middle path of it. It is the balance of it. And in that way, you start to dance with the ocean. You start to come in a conversation with each other. You're in the present moment and you gain more energy because you enjoy and it's joyful. And from that, you get more energy back. So really, if you have a person next to you in the ocean, or if you have two people, let's not even say one is you, both is you maybe, or you know which one is you. If you have two people in the ocean and one is holding against the waves and forcing against the waves, he will look like he's struggling. The other one that is flowing with the waves, he will look like the mastery of the ocean, right? And it is like that. It is like that. It is even when you are in the ocean, and in some case when you let the ocean take you out and it's hard to come back, which is not a nice scenario. There is a way of understanding the ocean, and you know how to come back, you know when to swim, you know when to rest. So you don't force against the ocean, but you work with the ocean. You're present with it in the moment, and you let it flow. If you just say and react to it, it's different than dancing with it, being present with it. And then maybe even direct it. But that is the next step. First, you learn how to stay in your center, how to let things flow, how to let them pass through you. It is like life flowing and passing through you. And at the same time, of course, you're the creator for it. But this peace is letting it flow, letting it pass. Because what the problem is with most people is that they cannot live in the present moment. They cannot let things come to the presence, to their consciousness, and then let go at the same time. because some, they don't even want it to come up to the consciousness, so they suppress. Then there is others that want to have it to the conscious, but then they get addicted with it and identified with it, and they cannot let it go. So really, it is about letting it rise and letting it go, letting it come to the surface and letting it move on. It is the constant movement, the constant motion. And this, when you go with this flow, you stay in peace. You stay without identification with anything. The things come and they flow, and they come and they go. They rise and they move on. You don't need to hold on. You don't need to own. You don't need to identify. You don't need to name. You just be present with them and they flow. And that is peace. And that is with every emotion, with every thought, with everything that comes up. But the number 2 themes normally are the emotions and the thoughts. So with every emotion that comes, you let it rise. You don't identify with it. You don't try to name it or make a big movie out of it, put the whole story to it. You just let it rise and you let it pass. Literally that. Rising, passing. It comes to the surface, it moves on. But have you ever done that with any emotion in your life, really? That you can just let an emotion come in the moment it comes and you let it move on without needing to say, okay, I feel this because of that and this because of that and this because this thing happened and now this thing is happening and this is connected to this in the past and this will make me feel like this in the future and because of this and that, and then you create the whole story about an emotion that should have passed already before you finished your story. Because it is just rising and then it moves on. It is not there to create the whole story about it, really. That is when you let the emotion lead you. But when you just let it pass and you take back the lead of it, then there is no need to create a whole story. In the opposite way, then you call the emotion when you need it to manifest something. But it is not that emotion comes and takes over. It comes and you let it pass. And the same with every thought. You don't have a thought coming and then you create a story and you cycle that thought, you continue, you make the whole loop to come back to the beginning again, and the next one, you create your whole system, you create everything, you understand, yes, now you understand why it's like this, why like that, and you make the whole loop. No, you just let it come and you let it pass. The thing why you create all these stories and loops is because you identify with it. When an emotion comes, you think it's you. You think it's related to you. It is because of it's fitting and you're creating your whole story about yourself and your identity around it. Same with the thoughts. When actually it's just about being present and letting it go. That's it. Your past is past. The future is never going to be in the here and now. The future stays in the future. So you are here in the now. And in this moment, you are present and creating your reality. And it is not dominated by your past or your future. The present is just the here and now. And it is the only thing that exists. Everything is in constant motion. But it is not just moving from one point to the other. It is constantly moving. Always and forever. There is no beginning and there is no end. It is constant motion. So you let everything come and pass. And stay in your center. Stay in peace. That is mastery of motion. That is mastery of emotion. That is letting the emotion be in motion and not trying to force it in one direction, amplify it, identify with, create a story, all of this. Really, that everything, all of that is really letting you fall from your center. That is pushing you away from your center. That is you wanting to create a wall for the water to not run down and continue its path when the water is just flowing in peace. Water is just doing what it naturally does. It flows. Always. And it will continue to flow even if you build a wall. It does not stop the water. The water will flow. Always. Maybe it does not look like it to you, but it is flowing. Always. Constantly. Like the emotions. So just let them come like the thoughts and let them pass. And stay in peace. Stay in your center. Stay in your true self and not in identification with egos, with emotions, with thoughts, which all of that is ego. Just stay as you truly are in your deepest essence, in your center, and let the things come and move and let them move to you and move on. You're just in the present moment, the witness of it, and the director of it, but that is not in this episode. So really, that is peace. There is no need to do it in any other way. If you want to continue, do it. Nobody will stop you. But that will never lead you to real peace and to mastery of what you're here to learn and to master. That is what, even that, when you talk about Zen and all of this, I don't like to go into different names that much because there's so much concept of the mind. But all of that is about this. It's not about not moving. It is about allowing the motion to come and move on. It is not needing to force it in any way, not needing to react to it. It's coming and it's moving on, and you're in the present moment. You stay in your center. That's it. As easy as that. And yet so difficult, huh? Can you do it? Can you stay present in your center even if there comes a storm, a thunderstorm, and the outside or in the inside? Triggered from the outside or directly from your inside. To stay and to just let it pass. Or do you want to go right into the thunderstorm and feel it in all the ways and go in all that drama and have that whole show? That takes a lot of energy. And that energy, you could use it for very different things that are really, really, really amazing, that you actually came here and incarnated to learn and to use that energy for. But if you want to continue to waste it on thoughts and emotions and all that identification and egos, that's your choice. You're not a victim of it. You're choosing that. So let it rise and let it move on. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. Don't stop here. Master that. Master yourself. Master your emotions. Master the emotion. On our website, you can find many more episodes and classes that help you with exactly that. Because that is why you're here. That is gaining wisdom. That is coming back to your center and living in your center. So go to the website, www.AIBû.me, and just listen to your intuition. What episode, what book, what class, whatever, what call, what's next for you to come closer, to always live in that peace in your center and let the things move. Live in that movement and master it. Master yourself. If you feel there is any other way, anything or you're not sure yet how to make the next step, then you can get in contact with us and we will be there to help you. But just go to the website and follow the intuition, no doubt. And you will see what's next in your alive journey, in the real life, in the real lived path of this, the next movement, the next move for you. So everything on www.AIBû.me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. And enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you very soon in the next episode. Thank you.